Hello, my name's Michael, and this is All Departments.
Here come the cherries, and we're heading for the top of the tree. Bournemouth is a team that's going to show Division 3. Here come the leaders and the scorers at the Saturday, showing how to win the Southern way. So we sing, come on Bournemouth, come on Bournemouth. While you're out there winning, hear the shouting and the singing. We sing, come on Bournemouth, come on Bournemouth. Here come the cherries, here come the cherries, here come the cherries, number one.
Hello and welcome to All Departments. As vaguely promised last week, this is the second half of Paul Morrell's chat with Dave Fitzgerald about his 10 years at Dean Court. Many thanks for the kind comments about the first half. They're much appreciated, although my own contribution went no further than pressing the record button.
Let's talk a little bit about the promotion season. So, start at the very beginning, pre-season, how did that go?
Absolute nightmare. Obviously Harry was building the side for the season, and we brought in a few players, Carl Richards, a couple of other lads, and I think we lost every single pre-season game. We had an absolute nightmare pre-season, and we had crisis talks, believe it or not. Five games into pre-season crisis talks. We were training at Fordenbridge then, and obviously Harry's called the meeting, and we're in the bar area of at Fordenbridge, and he's gone round every player, slagging us all off, bits and pieces, and he looked at Carl Richards, and he said, "Carl," he said, "you're useless. I think I've done my money with you." And Carl just looked up, "Harry, when the season starts, I'll get my component right." And then I asked, "What?" Anyway, Harry just left it at that. Played at Wimborne Town, and I was on the bench, and Carl was next to me. Harry, being Harry, looked up at me, looked up at Carl Richards and said, "Carl, tell me what you said about Mozzie. Tell me what you said about Mozzie." He said, yeah, that Aussie, he don't pass the ball right to me." I said, "Carl, I've put it in front of you, to your chest, in your head. Where do you want the ball?" And he just looked up and said, "Just give me the ball and I'll win the game." And that was Carl Richards all over. And he was absolutely useless pre-season, but he come good in the end.
So obviously, Harry, put that squad together, and gradually, even through the season, we talk about Cookie tonight, what an influence he was joining, when he did through that season and beyond. Round of applause for Richard Cook, please. And obviously, other players were very influential when he joined as well.
Yeah, I mean, we had quite a good start to the season, right up there. And then we hit a spell of a lot of injuries mid-season. We had Davey Puckett broke his leg, and a few other injuries. And we were playing away at Rotherham, and he just signed John Williams. And obviously Willow was at the game, and I think he got beat 4-2 at Rotherham. Really bad result. We're in the change room after the game, and sort of Willow's there in his long trench coat, and he's obviously just signed for us, so he didn't really know any of us. And Harry, being Harry, he's obviously slated a few players, and then he's looked at Willow and said, "Willow, tell him what you tell him what you think of him." And he put Willow right on the spot, and of course, Willow let us have it. He laid into us, and that was Willow. And I think that was a turning point. When Willow come to the club, he gave us that little bit more still and a leadership, and I think that was an absolute terrific signing for us.
Absolutely. And what sort of, because we couldn't splash the cash in those days, what sort of players and characters do we have in that squad? Talk us through one or two of the lads.
Well, I think you go right to the side. I think when you look at our side that year, we weren't a brilliant side, but we had a work ethic about us. We had leaders, from Jerry Painton in goal. He seemed a quiet lad, but my God, in the change room, he used to sort of pull a few players up and a few scraps in the change rooms. Then you had Mark Newson, the skipper. Again, another great signing from Harry from Maidstone. And a little story about that. He nicked Noose from Maidstone and from Barry Fry. Yeah, exactly. So I think he got him at really a low price, and Barry Fry got on the phone to Harry and said, "I'm going to come down and blow your kneecaps off." True story, he did. He threatened Harry on the phone. He said, "I'll come down and blow your kneecaps off at Nicky and Mark Newson for next to nothing." And later on in the year, Carl Richards, we played Birmingham City at home, and I think we won 3-0, and Carl Richards had a blinding game, absolute brilliant game. And Harry done a deal in the bar, sold Carl to Birmingham. So anyway, for Saturday we're at home, Carl's gone off to Birmingham, we won our game at home, and we're in the bar, and Harry's coming laughing. So what's up, H? He said, "I've just had Barry Fry on the phone." He said, "What? You just sold me?" And Harry just said, "Sold is seen, Barry, see you later." And put the phone down. True story.
No, he had some characters and just strong, like you say, work ethic characters, players like Mark Whitlock, you know, and some great camaraderie off the pitch as well. Let's get back to that season. So some very, very, a great start to this season. Like I said, had a bit of a dip, but any sort of games that stick out in mind? I know you saw some sort of late winners in certain games, Bolton and...
Yeah, I mean, I popped up with a couple of winners. We were doing well. We had a couple of, tight games. Doncaster was one, and I popped up with a 78th minute winner, blasted it in the top corner. And then the next game, trying to think who it was, you have to remind me.
Yeah, so you had Bolton obviously losing to Middlesbrough as well, and they were up there.
We lost to Middlesbrough 4-0 away, which was an absolute travesty, a bad result for us. But then we went on a bit of a run then, obviously just signed Willow, and then Cookie come to us just in January, and we had a spell after Christmas where we just didn't think we were going to get beat. Every week we were going out with the same attitude, an attitude that no team were going to beat us, and that's the way it went. I think we only lost two games from the run-in from January to the title.
Absolutely, and we talked at the top of the show with regards to the Fulham game, but the games leading up to that, the Middlesbrough at home, what are your memories of that night?
Yeah, that was a massive game. Prior to that, we had this sportsman's dinner at the Carrington Hotel, and all the players were there. And I don't know if you remember Simone's, the leather shop in Bournemouth, and he was there, and he went up to Harry. He said, "Your team are not going to go up this year." And Harry said, "Well, I'll make a bet with you." And he said, "Okay." He said, "All your players wear bomber jackets, leather bomber jackets, £200 bomber jackets. If you go up, the rest is history." He had to I think he paid out 16 bomber jackets for the boys. But that was leading up to the Middlesbrough game. It was a late kick-off. It was a full capacity in there. I think we had every end bar A block. Those you remember, AFC Dean Court, the Middlesbrough fans just had the A block. We had the whole rest of the ground. At first I thought, why are Middlesbrough fans, cheering for us, like behind the goal in the Brighton beach end, and realised that obviously it was Bournemouth fans. But it was a great atmosphere, late kick-off. Sean O'Driscoll bobbled one in, as he did. But it was a terrific result, and I think that was the turning point, of the whole season.
You had a story for me about Sean O'Driscoll.
Did I?
Yeah. So when he got injured or something, concussion was it?
We were playing at Swindon Town. I've had a couple of dodgy games at Swindon. I got sent off at Swindon. I don't know if you remember, Tommy Efferman got sent off in the same game, and we were 2-0 down. Tommy got sent off. We got back to 2-2, and Dave Bamber, I'd just been booked in the first half. Dave Bamber was put through, and I thought, I've got to take him down, so I sided him down. Knew I was going to go off, and say, red carded, and I'm watching Harry coming along the touchline. I thought, oh God, he's going to give me it. So I sprinted into the changing rooms, get in there. Tommy Efferman's going, "How did we get on, Moz?" I said, "No, I've been sent off." He said, "Oh, I'm out of here," he went. So we were in there, two kids trying to get showered to get out before Harry got in the changing room. Too late. Harry was in there, boots thrown at my head. He said, "You've let us down," and I probably did let him down that night. We both got sent off. Tommy got sent off for sliding down Bobby Barnes, and so it was a bad result. But the other one was Sean O'Driscoll got knocked out, and he's in the middle of the centre circle. And the old physio goes on, and he's looked back at Harry and said, "You don't know who he is, or where he is." Harry said, "Tell me he's Maradona, get on with it."
Obviously, you talk about Keith Williams was in that squad, played early, he's gone over there, Cookie. But Tommy Heffernan, we've chatted loads over the last couple of months or so, but Tommy Heffernan keeps coming up in terms of a character. Just what the man and the stories.
Tommy's a legend. I mean, I love Tommy. I think he was a character in the change room, and that year, the promotion year, he was in and out the side, but he was a character. Whether he was playing or not, he was in the change room encouraging players. And I think one of the stories about Tommy, we were, I think it was the first season in the second division, and the international break, and that's the first time ever Bournemouth ever got into an international break. Harry took us to Gran Canaria, and off we go to Gran Canaria, and he just signed David Shearer. You remember David Shearer? No, it was David Shearer. He come from Gillingham. And anyway, we're at the airport. Noose is in a plaster because he's broken his arm, but he got on the trip because he liked Noose. So anyway, we get to the airport at the other end in Gran Canaria to see David Shearer on the escalator, the baggage going in and out his flat, back round. Harry just looked at me and said, "I think I've done my money here, eh?" I said, "Look at this."
So I think it was towards the end of that season, though, that you almost had one of the most amazing opportunities of your career, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's mid-season. We were doing well at the top of the league. We played away at Wigan, and there was a lot of speculation about myself moving on. A lot of clubs were watching me at the time. I was probably at my peak then, and I was playing really well. And we played Wigan away. There's a bit of interest in the paper about Liverpool, and
It's Kenny Dalglish now.
Can't make it. So we played at Wigan, and we went up the night before, and we're in the hotel, and Tommy Heffernan phones me in the room. He says, "Mozzie, come to my room." I thought, well, I'm not going to argue with him. I'll go to his room. Yeah. So I go knock on his door, and he's there, and he said, "You seen this?" And he's thrown the Liverpool paper at me, and he said, "You're on your way, mate." And it was $250,000. Dalglish offers Bournemouth $250,000 for Bournemouth left back. So I thought, anyway, get to the game, play the game, we won 2-0. I think that was the game where it was rearranged, where we got snowed off. And I remember Cookie, we went to Wigan, it was the worst weather ever, and Cookie was on the wing, he was like a snowman. He didn't move, he was blue. We had to carry him off after the game. I think 67 minutes they called the game off. And Cookie, we had to carry him off, he was blue. I'll never forget that, Cookie. Oh, God. So anyway, Dalglish is there, and we win 2-0, and I'm sort of walking back, and I see Dalglish talking to Harry in the bar, and I thought, well, maybe I'm on my way. So on the coach coming about, I said, "Can I have a word, H?" So I said, "Look, what's this about Liverpool?" And he said, "What are you on about?" And he said, "Well, me going to Liverpool." And he said, "Don't know nothing about it." So I threw the Liverpool paper at him, and he said, "Oh, come and see me tomorrow, we'll have a chat." So anyway, next day I turn up at the club, and I phone my agent up. There he is, PJ. Now PJ has obviously been about a bit, and I thought he knows what he's on about. I need him in with me, negotiating with Harry Redknapp. So I turns up with PJ, and I knocks on the door, Brian Tyler. Harry goes, "I'm not seeing you with him." I said, "But he's my agent." He said, "I ain't seen you with him." I said, "But I want him in with me." He said, "No, I ain't seen you." And in the end we said, "Look, we're not going to move in H, I want him in with me." So we sat down and we thrashed out this contract, Pete, didn't we? Is he here still?
Yeah, he's there.
Oh, there he is. And we sat down there, it was the weirdest contract. Pete told me to keep my mouth shut, and Pete did all the talking, Harry did all the blinking. Brian Tyler was laughing his head off. So it was quite an interesting chat. And anyway, we went outside, Harry made his offer to me. Pete said it's not good enough, so we went back in and negotiated a bit more. Cut a long story short, I said, "Well, what if I don't sign this H? I've only got a year to go on my contract." And he said, "I'll play in the reserves." And that is a true story. He said, "I'll play in the reserves for the rest of the season." I thought, I was a bit cruel really, but I wanted to go. I mean, it was a great move for me to go to Liverpool. But in the end, we sat there and we did flesh out the contract, and I did sign another 2-year extension to the contract. I mean, that's when contracts were contracts; they were binding. So I decided, well, best thing is, he's made me a good offer, and I signed the 3-year deal.
Excellent. And ultimately got promotion. We'll move on now. Talk to us a little about the Talk to us a little bit about the 3 seasons in the second tier of English football. You know, some of the players that you played with, and the Pulis era, and just moving in towards really sort of the end of your time with AFC Bournemouth.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jerry Payton got Player of the Year that year when we won the league, and I had a good season that year, and I thought I was going to get it. And the next season was the first year in the second division, and I had a blinding season. I was really flying, and we had a terrific year. We played some great clubs and great games, and we were sort of at one stage going for the playoffs. And as I say, playing at some great grounds, and Man City and Villa, and it was a terrific season. And I think I was sort of at that stage wanting to move, and I've got to be honest with you, I wanted to move. I was ready for the move. There was a lot of speculation about Chelsea coming for me. The year we won the league, we played Norwich to get the trophy, and I was told I was going to Norwich after the game. The deal was being done in the bar with Ken Brown. So there was a lot of speculation about me moving on to Divi 1, and I was ready for that then. It didn't happen. Harry sort of thought the world of me, and I left my sort of allegiance to Bournemouth. And as I say, the 2 seasons that we had in the second division were terrific. We had some terrific times, some terrific games. And obviously, then up to the relegation from the second division, were when we had a lot of injuries.
Absolutely, and some great players that you play with, Vince and Mark Morris here tonight. Another round of applause for those guys. Particularly Vince Barton, ladies and gentlemen. We played with some great players, obviously Luther. Obviously, not so many sort of the bigger characters in that squad, was it? Or was it? I don't know. Jamie in there as well?
Well, Jamie, we had some big characters. I mean, Mark Morris is a massive character. I mean, you say about John Williams, but, Mark Morris wore his heart on his sleeve, and, I had a privilege of playing with Mark, and, he was a character as well. There he is. He's just gone for a win.
You're talking about before we come back in. He's bored with the rest.
Well, I'll tell you a story about Mark. One day we played at home, and we had a great result, and we were in the bar afterwards, as you do as players, having a few beers, 2 or 3 beers. And I don't know if you remember Annie Bassett. You remember Annie Bassett that came to the club to sort of sort out the financial side of the club? Well, me and Mark were at the bar, and we're sort of talking away. Annie Bassett walks in and goes, "All right, lads, how you doing?" I said, yeah, we're fine. She said, where do you live, Annie? She said, I got a cottage out in the forest. I said, oh, yeah. And she said, I've got a log fire. I said, oh, that's great. She looked up at me and she said, Mozzie, she said, I really love your legs. To which I replied, they look great wrapped round you by your open fire. To which Mark Morris said, good luck, Mozzie, you're on your way.
Okay, sorry, go on, Lou.
No.
Oh, you're done here.
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, okay. Yes, leave the next line out. So, a few quick fire questions for you now before we obviously talk about when you finish with Bournemouth. So, in your career, hardest player you played against?
There were a few. Frank Stapleton, Joe Jordan, he broke my nose at Bristol City. And then a week later, I think, or 2 weeks later, we played at Man United, and Frank Stapleton bent it back the other way, for which I thanked him. It does look a bit straighter now, but it was right across my face. And then next week, as I say, Frank Stapleton done an elbow and done me. I don't know if you remember Tommy Hurlock. Terry Hurlock, yeah. Oh, phenomenal.
His brother with Tommy was father, wasn't he?
No, but the one character that I think everyone was feared was Big Billy Whitehurst. He was an absolute animal, and I can remember playing at Hull City. We were 4-0. We were cruising. We were absolutely pulverising them. and you could see Billy getting absolutely mad, and he could be bubbling up, and he whacked Jerry Payton. He went in and clobbered him. So I went over and clobbered Billy Whitehurst. I gave him a clout. As soon as I'd done it, I went, oh my God, what have I done? And to which, the referee's booking Billy Whitehurst, and he's looking over the top of the referee and saying, you're dead. You're dead. And I'm going, oh, for fuck's sake. So anyway, the game's going on, and I'm keeping an eye out for Big Bill, we're playing, we were knocking it around, we were a good footballing side, and we were passing it around. And then at the corner of my eye, I see Billy coming like a steam train towards me. So I kicked the ball to Jamie Redknapp. Jamie Redknapp got clobbered. I said, sorry, Jamie, I want to get clobbered. And I sort of passed it, then ran down the wing and said, see you later. Harry looked at me and said, well done, Moss. Final whistle goes. I'm off. I'm down the tunnel. I'm gone. I'm thinking, Billy Whitehurst chased me down the tunnel. Tommy Effman's got him round the neck. In the tunnel, it's just all kicked off. I've never seen it like it. And I'm in the thing going, all right, Bill, and Tommy's getting battered by Billy. It was the most funny thing. But Billy Whitehurst, I bumped that into again in Hong Kong. And he was out there, and just as I was getting word, actually, he was coming back. He had to get out of Hong Kong because he actually whacked a Chinese player and put him into a real serious state. And they had the triads after him, believe it or not, and he had to get him out of the country. Billy was quite a hard nut.
You had a bit of fun with Fletch when he played for Hartlepool against him. When he was a youngster, you told me that
Fletch,
at the time.
I played centre half at Hartlepool away, and Fletch was playing up front for them. And I've got to be honest with you, he battered me for 90 minutes. Not battered me, got the better of me. He was just a battle. He was elbows, he was kicking, he was punching. It was a right battle. I think he got the draw in the end. And then Pulis signed him at Bournemouth. And he came down, and I remember he had a few games, and we were at training, and Pulis looked at Fletch, and he went, you've come down here and you've become a softie. Do you remember when you battered Mozzie, for 90 minutes? And he went, yeah, I do. He said, we want you back to that again. Obviously, the rest is history. Fletch went on to play God knows how many games, but, it was a bit of a battle with Fletch.
Most memorable game?
Memorable game. There's a few. Obviously, won a 6 out of Fulham. Absolutely fantastic day all round for the club. But one of my best, and I think, was Man City away. They had to beat us to go up to Divvy 1, and it was at Main Road, and full house there. We were 3-0 down at half time, and we absolutely played really well first half. And I remember going in at half time, I went to change in paracut, so I couldn't see Harry, which is great. But he just said, keep doing what you're doing, keep playing the way you are, you're doing well. So we went out the second half, 3-1, Matt Young 3-2. And then in the 92nd minute, penalty, which Luther Blessed stuck away, and that stopped them going up that day. And I can remember that's when I think Bish had an absolutely blinding game, and that's the game that saw him go to Man City. He was absolutely brilliant that day. And obviously the rest is history. Man City had to go to Bradford the next week to eventually go up, which they did go up and win 2-0.
Tell us a little bit about the circumstances around you leaving Bournemouth and just how things panned out leading to your Oriental experience.
Yeah, the last 2 seasons at Bournemouth were, when Pulis took over, Tony Pulis, I didn't get on with him that well, if I'm going to be totally honest. I didn't like his style of football, I didn't like his style of training. We clashed a little bit. And towards the end of my career at Bournemouth, he kept leaving me out. I lost a bit of interest, lost my fitness. And then we went away to Burnley, and he kept leaving me out the side and taking me away, 13th man. And we went to Burnley, and we're in the hotel prior to the game, and we went off training in the morning. He left me out again, and he pulled me to one side. He said, Mozzie, he said, John Beck wants to have a word with you at Preston. They said, there's a taxi laid on for you when we get at the hotel. I said, okay, I can have a word with Becky. So I went back to the hotel after to see John Beck. Anyway, turned up in Becky's office and he was there with the coach. He went, "All right, Mozzie, how you doing?" I said, "Not good, mate." He said, "Well, I want you to come and play for us here at Preston." He said, "The nightclubs are brilliant." He said, "You'll love it. Grab a granny night on a Thursday night." And I said, "Okay, sold." We sat there, thrashed out a deal, and it was a good deal. I've got to be honest with you, I wouldn't have got that at Bournemouth. I mean, they were trying to drop my money at Bournemouth, and Pulis was playing hard. So it would have been a good move. And I remember travelling back that day. I said to Becky, "I'll give me a couple of days to think it over." We reported back the next day for training. I ran out on the pitch. We were playing on the pitch that day, and Pulis looked at me and said, "What are you still doing here?" And I just looked at him and said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "We sold you to Preston." I said, "No, you haven't." I said, "I haven't agreed terms." I said, "Actually, I'm going to stay here now." So I cut my own throat a little bit because it was a good move to go to Preston. It was a terrific offer Becky put on the table. But I thought, no, I'm going to fight for my place back here. And that's what I did up until the end of the season. And I did get back into the side again, and I played right to the end. And then obviously the contract was up. He put another deal on the table. He dropped all my money. He only offered me a year's contract. He gave me the option of doing the youth team. And I just sort of looked there and I said, "Let me think it over." We turned for pre-season training. He just looked at me and said, "If you don't make a decision now, I'm going to go and buy someone." And I just looked at Pierce and I'm off, I'm going. Prior to that, we had a testimonial that led up to my testimonial, which left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth because, I had 10 great years at Bournemouth. And Pulis sort of said, "I want you to take your testimony at the end of the season, that season, my last season at Bournemouth." I said, "But I want to do it next year." And he said, "You do it now or you lose it." And he threatened me with that, and it did leave a sour taste in my mouth. I had to rush through a testimonial game against Southampton, and that's when Bournemouth were going through all the troubles financially, and every time I was doing a function, they were doing a function, so it really affected my testimonial year. And then at the end of it all, which again left a real sour taste in my mouth, was that trying to get the money out of Bournemouth for my testimonial was just not happening. It took 6 months to get my actual money from the club. They held it, they refused to give it to me. They kept saying, "Oh, we've got expenses to take out." Well, as you can imagine, I left on bad terms really, but all I can say is I had 10 great years at AFC Bournemouth. The last bit of the season was nothing to do with the fans, it was just my relationship with Pulis wasn't good. And then it ended me sort of leaving. And so
a couple of pit stops and then all roads lead to Hong Kong.
Yeah, I sort of got myself fit again, and I went up to Leyton Orient. Harry phoned me up and said, "Leyton Orient want you." So I went up there for the week. Had a good week up there. Played West Ham United on the Friday night. Going to sign a contract on the Saturday for Leyton Orient. And I broke my collarbone. Went up for a head on a far post, fell over. Dale Gordon fell on me, snapped my collarbone. And that put me out for 10 weeks. Got myself fit again, went up to Barnet, my Achilles snapped, so I had a year out, no football. So I was out the shop window basically. And then all of a sudden I'm sat at home one day and the phone goes and this Chinese lady, "Oh, how will I go and play in Hong Kong?" And I'm thinking, okay, it's one of the lads pissing about with me. I said, "Yeah, all right, who is it?" And in the background I heard this Chinese bloke talking. I thought, maybe this is serious. Again, cut a long story short, they asked to meet them in Ramsgate, and I travelled down to Ramsgate, and they told me to bring my football kit with me. Now, I had to explain it was a lady and a translator and the coach, but I had to explain to the lady that I just had the old snip done, the chop, and I was a bit sore. So anyway, I'm sort of put my kit on, and I sort of go out onto this playing fields there and kicking the ball around, keeping it up, headers. After about an hour, he said, "You're a very good player." And I said, "Yeah, I told you that." So anyway, we got changed, went to a restaurant. they threw a contract at me. I looked at it, and I knew obviously Richard had been out to Hong Kong for 2 days, so and he came back. And but I knew a few lads that had been out to Hong Kong, and the deals that were on the table. But anyway, I thrashed out a deal with them. That they phoned when I sort of got my contract on the table. They phoned this Mr. The chairman in the team I was playing for was Sing Tao, and I put what I wanted, and they agreed the contract. And the rest was history, really. I made a decision that I would not got that money in England. I'll have 2 or 3 seasons in Hong Kong. So off I went to Hong Kong.
And you came back, played a little bit of local football?
Yeah, I mean, it went really well. I came back for personal reasons in the end to Hong Kong. I was doing really well out there. I was skipper, we were top of the league. I really loved the place. The place, it was an up-and-coming place for football. It was difficult because it's away and miles away from my hometown. But it's an experience I always cherish. Came back to England. They held my contract out there, so I couldn't do any football anywhere in the world until I got that back. And I sort of got the PFA into it. They couldn't get it back, and in the end, Jeff Butler at Salisbury phoned them, and they agreed a price to get my contract back to England, which took 6 months to do that. Anyway, I signed for Salisbury City, had a season with Salisbury City, we won the league, and then got up to the top league there with Salisbury, and by then I was didn't want to do the travelling. I was not interested in the travelling anymore, and my brother was then running Poppies, and they had to pay £1,000, I think it was, to get me, £1,000 to...
Are you offered £1?
Oh, yeah, that's right. So I went to Poppies, and then around the non-league scene, I did like Lansdowne, and I had a season, a great couple of seasons, or one great season at Sturminster Marshall. I've got to tell you about that. They wanted to win the league, and a man called Jetter, he bought the league really. He had myself, Tommy Effman, Chrissy Shaw, Mansell. Well, I mean, we had a hell of a side at Sturminster Marshall. And I think we won the league by 27 points. And they were paying us stupid money, and we just couldn't refuse it. And so I had, great season at Sturminster, and then obviously went into a bit of management, Poole Town, Livingston and New Milton.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a round of applause for the career of Paul Morrell. So you played for 10 years for Bournemouth. You've got a dream team, I think, of the players that you played with.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
I'm getting on. Yeah. I mean, I played with some great goalkeepers over the year. We had the Bear, Vince in the corner, comes very close. He's my favourite as well. But my first choice is Jerry Payton. Jerry Payton, outstanding professional. Couldn't fault him. His training ethics, he was an international player. Actually got me nearly to play for Ireland, Republic of Ireland. I found out I had a great grandmother that was Irish, and it was all in the papers that I was going to the World Cup. I mean, Jack Charlton was going to take me to the World Cup, and I was on standby actually to go with the Republic of Ireland to the World Cup.
Well, Jerry Payton, right back.
Right back. Now, we played players like Mark Nightingale, Tommy F. He's an absolute character. But I've got to stick with Noose. I think Noose was absolutely a terrific captain. He didn't often get on with the fans, but he had a heart. He had a passion about him. He's a winner.
And chosen yourself
a great drinking partner.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you chosen yourself for left back? What have you done with that?
No. Well, obviously I would do, but again, people like Chrissy Sully, Neil Masters, but I'm going to go with little Keithy Rowland. Little Keithy was an absolute diamond of a player. He went on to West Ham and QPR, but he was an understanding to me. Obviously, David Coleman was in my early days, but he was pushing me really hard towards the end of my career, and eventually broke into the side. But little Keithy had a great left foot and a great work ethic.
And 2 centre backs.
Well, again, tough one because you got people like Bondi. Obviously Mark Morris, I mentioned earlier on, but you've got to go with John Williams. He was inspirational again. Wore his heart on his sleeve. Again, a great drinker. So fitted in really well to the squad we had. But he was a leader, and as I say, he was the signing that turned that season.
And who plays with Willow?
Again, I'm going to go with Sean Till. Teely obviously came from non-league, from Weymouth to us. Strong, as you all know. I don't think people that know Sean Till. He was a strong player. He was my room partner, and I couldn't see him most nights because of the smoke. He used to smoke like a trooper, and I used to hear the which was opening a can of lager, or 3 cans of lager on a Friday night away from home. But he was again a strong player, a character, good in the air, quick as lightning.
Cool. So let's go across the midfield. Right midfield.
Right midfield. Well, sat here. I mean, obviously, you got people like Woody. Woody played right or left. Great player, Woody. But little man here. Again, Harry made a great signed Cookie from Tottenham. Again, turned the season. His pace. He was quite quick to the bar, which was quite nice. Only when we pushed him in front of us. But no, he was again a great signing for us. Quick, got crosses in, scored a few important goals.
And left midfield, obviously your partners along down the left side down the years.
Yeah, I mean exactly. Yeah, I mean people like Matty Holmes. Matty again, terrific player. Again, I've never seen a lad train so hard as Matty. He'd be out, if you finish training, he'd be kicking a ball against the wall. He'd be out there morning, noon and night. But I'm going to go with Mark O'Connor. I had a great partnership with Mark O'Connor. We had an understanding. His work rate was phenomenal. We complemented each other. And again, he was a great asset to the promotion side.
And your 2 centre midfielders?
Centre midfielders, this is a tough one because you've got people like Jamie Redknapp, Casey, Sean O'Driscoll. Now, Sean O'Driscoll was really close between Sean. First one, Ian Bishop. Absolute quality.
I remember the saying in the stands, we all believe Bishop is better than Robson. I remember that. What was that?
Yeah. Bish was absolutely superb. I mean, the season when him and Brooksy were in midfield in the second division, the 2 seasons in the second division, we were a good footballing side. Those 2 could sing in midfield. Jamie Redknapp, great player. But on the other side, you might not agree with this one, Bobby Savage. Bobby Savage was an absolute thug. He was, wasn't he? Animal. And his career was cut short a little bit with a bad break and a bad leg break against Portsmouth, I think it was. And I was in the stand that day when I heard him break his leg. But Bobby was, again, he was a character. He was strong. He was, just a great player to play with.
And your strikers?
Strikers. Now, again, this is really difficult. People like Effa the Cuckoo. But I'm going to go with Colin Clark. I think Colin Clark was, he got 30-odd goals, I think, in the season he signed for us. He signed from Southampton. And he was an absolutely terrific player, great goal scorer. We got him towards the end of his career, but I think he was a quality striker.
Cool. And who's the other one?
Well, someone said Trevor Ayler. Yes, Trevor was a good striker, but I'm going to go with Luther. I think Luther was I can remember when Harry signed Luther Blissett, and we were training before his debut, the Hull City game where he scored 4 goals. We trained the morning of the thing, and I was watching Luther, and I said, what a signing. We thought he might just come and just, see his time out with us. But he was quick, he was in training, he was sharp as lightning. And of course, that evening he went on to score 4 goals, and we thrashed Hull City, I think it was 5-1 or 5-2 or something. But he was a terrific signing.
Absolutely. Well, applause for the dream team. So, that gives an opportunity just to talk through some of those great players, not just the ones that got on the 11. Now, Mozzie, I don't know about you, but you know, like you said, we've got this history under Eddie Howe, which is just monumentous, and you know, it's often, you know, in the media all the time, the Premier League, it's all razzmatazz. It's absolutely fantastic what's happened to the club, and long may it continue. You know, prior to that, the Fletch years and everything, there's such a strong, steep history. But I think for me, ladies and gentlemen, as Mozzie said, we had a history before that time as well, and now is the time to celebrate that. We're coming up to the 30-year anniversary of these great guys that actually won us promotion. And while I'm talking about it, I'd like to thank Paul Orchard from In Off the Post that's really helped us in facilitating this evening. So, you know, we've got to do something, right? We've got to do something for the 30-year anniversary. Let's get the boys together and do something. But for now, the man's an absolute legend. Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Morrell! I just want to say thank you for your coming tonight. I'm really overwhelmed by the response this evening. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the evening, and thank you all for coming out and supporting this night. So thank you very much, and enjoy next season.
Great stuff there from Paul and Fritz. I would love to hear more from the players of that era, so hopefully the soon-to-arrive 30th anniversary of their greatest achievement will be celebrated in style. Well, now that the fixtures are out, I can already feel my excitement rising at the prospect of another season in Cherry Dreamland, despite the tear-jerking departure of our beloved Captain Fantastic. So up the cherries in all departments, and goodbye!